Welcome to a new Daily Top AskReddit video. Today's topic.
What's a disturbing celebrity fact that not a lot of people know? Kelsey Grammer's sister was kidnapped, raped and murdered by spree killer Freddie Glenn when she was 18 and he was 20 back in the 70s. He takes time off to attend Glenn's parole hearings to say he should never be released, and he hasn't. He's been doing this since 2006 when Glenn first became eligible for it. He's next up for another parole hearing next year. His father was murdered by a man named Reddy Niles. Is that true? The murdered part. How sad that H has lost two people to separate murders. Jason Momoa's eyebrow scar originates from a nasty 2008 bar fight, during which Dominic Bando used a shattered pint glass as a slashing weapon. Momoa received 140 stitches, Bando got 5 years in prison. Tommy Flanagan has a similar story, going back to 1990, when a gang of ne'er-do-wells told him, Flanagan, they had killed his brother. They hadn't. Flanagan wielded a Heineken bottle against the gang's knives, and was facially scarred as a result. Tina Fey has possibly the worst of the three stories. The scar crossing her left cheek plus underlip resulted from a random passer-by's knife attack while she, Tina, played in her childhood yard. Tina was 5 years old at the time. Edit. I also know the Michael K. Williams story, which I didn't include here, but have now been prompted by several Redditors to add. Williams, also coincidentally aged 25, like Flanagan, was a model plus dancer who, while good plus tipsy at a club in Queens, shouted off a group of thugs who were harassing one of his club friends on the nearby street. Said thugs waited for him till closing time, then slashed his face with a straight razor. Williams' People magazine retelling suggested that, ugly as it was, the scar became his trademark and, paradoxically, earned him lots of acting, modeling work. Didn't she write into one of the shows she worked on a line about not being afraid of the world because, the worst thing that ever happened to me happened in my own front yard? I want to say maybe Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. Yeah, that was unbreakable. Getting into a bar fight with Jason Momoa. Why? As a tall, big dude, sometimes when you go out and are just minding your business, assholes still decide you're the guy whose ass they need to kick. I don't really go out to clubs anymore, but in my 20s if I was on the dance floor with my girlfriend and friends, I was usually the one that guys would try and start a fight with. And walking away saying, I don't want to fight dude, if you want this spot, it's yours, wouldn't solve it. I was the eldest sibling, and hit my growth spurt young, so I was always the big kid. I learned early that fighting could get others hurt, and I'd be blamed, so I never fought anyone. But that doesn't matter to jackasses with a chip on their shoulder. Sometimes people just want to punch the big guy. He said to him, go fuck another fish, asshole. Same breed of idiot who pushed Jack Reacher off his bike twice. Bray got his feelings hurt by a news report and tried to beat the journalist who produced it to death, in public at a party. He beat her, stomped on her, repeatedly smashed her face into the wall and a mirror, and threw her down a flight of stairs. It's a miracle she survived. But nobody cares. Man shrugging light skin tone ETA. I always remember it as being a news report, but more accurately it was an interview of Ice Cube and NWA by D. Barnes, who was more a media presenter than journalist. But end result is still the same. He beat the living shit out of an innocent woman because his fifis were hurt and nearly killed her, and got away with it. Is that why they call it Beats by Dre? Actually, yes. He's been in the news for beating his wife as well. They say it was called Beats by Dre so that if you Google anything about him beating someone that would pop up first instead. Damn, I had never heard that. That's fucked. And she was essentially blacklisted from the industry for years afterwards. So, it was extra fucked up. Terry Crews and Drew Carey were both sexually abused. Terry testified in Congress over it. What an incredible guy. Terry loves open and honest conversations about sexual assault. And yogurt. Brandon Fraser as well. It's insane that there are people out there who think men can't get raped, sexually abused. Especially celebrities. Brendan's entire career was destroyed because no one believed him, especially because Harvey Philip Burke apparently just couldn't be homo. Thank God Brendan is having a resurgence, no one deserves it more. Terry Crews and Drew Carey's names sound way more alike than they should. Steven Tyler of Aerosmith once became a legal guardian to a 16-year-old girl so that he could legally live with her alone. When she later became pregnant with his child, he forced her to have an abortion because he was afraid that all the drugs they had both been taking would lead the baby to have birth defects. And then had the balls to start the Janie's Got a Gun Foundation for survivors of sex abuse, but not till decades later, and it's still ridiculous. It's an unreal story and fuck him. Used to be a big fan, but now I just tell everyone about this exact case. And fuck her parents too for giving him guardianship, like actually WTF. Then drove her to her parents and booted her out of a car to break up with her after. How thoughtful of him. Fran Drescher, producer and star of 90s sitcom The Nanny, was raped by burglars along with another woman in her apartment years before production of the series. That led to a massive change in the sitcom industry. While filming The Nanny, she ended up with a stalker, which obviously made her fear for her life. Since it was filmed in front of an audience, they started casting them, making sure their police record was clean and that they had a good laugh. Many sitcoms started doing that right after. Have to make sure none of them have beef with TK Jewelers or L&L Limos. Gabrielle Union was raped by an armed robber at her part-time job at Payless Shoes when she was 19. She successfully sued the store for negligence because the guy robbed other stores and they didn't warn employees. Geez, her dad was military and taught her to stay present so she could remember details, which she attributes to being able to point out her attacker. Her rapist turned himself in after her prompt reporting. Similarly, Nana Visitor, who played Major Kira on Deep Space Nine, was abducted and raped in 1994 after leaving the DS9 set and driving home. She shared her story on Gates McFadden's podcast with great poise and vulnerability. It obviously wasn't a great thing, and she sounds very strong and brave when talking about it. I had no idea. Her performance as Major Kira was fantastic, and I can't believe she went through such a horrific ordeal. During the Comedy Central roast of Pamela Anderson, Courtney Love infamously got plastered, and when she got on stage, it suddenly cut to commercial. At first, people thought it was because she said or did something really raunchy, even for the standards of the network that airs South Park. However, during the #MeToo movement, reports came out that she was doing a rant on Harvey Weinstein and his creepy behavior. At least part of that aired. I remember Love's line, "Pamela sat on my sunglasses and broke them. I can't be too upset, I was wearing them at the time." Quote, "I'm surprised no one has mentioned the singer Duffy. She disappeared from the spotlight for a good decade after being raped and drugged and held hostage over some weeks. She had been drugged at a restaurant on her birthday, taken to a foreign country on a plane, and was then held captive in a hotel room and raped. Terrifying stuff. This one is just shocking to me. I hadn't heard what she endured, or why she disappeared from the spotlight. Reading up on it now, this statement says so much." Duffy described the aftermath as alive, but dead, as a living murder, and found it impossible to continue a career in the public eye during her recovery. Also, as of March 2026, it was announced that Duffy is working on a Disney Plus documentary that will chronicle her kidnapping, sexual assault, and subsequent withdrawal from public life. Obviously, it will be an extremely difficult watch, but will hopefully be liberating for her. Woody Harrelson's father was a hitman, and Woody and Matthew McConaughey might be brothers with the same father. When you and Woody Harrelson are acting in a scene together, are you sad that somewhere there's a sack not being hacked? Zach Galifianakis. Most of the rock stars you love from yesteryear have knowingly had sex with underage fans. Weird Al is still safe. That's why they called him Weird. Anthony Kiedis of RHCP. He even brags about it in his book. One was 14. Jerry Seinfeld groomed and dated a 16-year-old high school student. When he was 39 years old. Edit, my bad, she was a 17-year-old high school student. Worse fact, there's multiple videos of Seinfeld laughing and saying, "Yeah, I don't care," when asked by people about the Palestinian babies dying in Gaza in recent years. He's human trash. Paul Walker also, really, didn't have Seinfeld down as gay. The star of the show, The Apprentice, is a pedophile. Oh my gosh, if only there was some files to prove it. Just in case. Charlize Theron's mother shot her husband, Charlize's father, dead when Charlize was 15, during an armed confrontation, following a long progression of his alcoholism plus domestic abuse. The father shot first. Closing parenthesis. 15-year-old Charlize witnessed it too. She talks about it openly. I would say maybe lead with the dad shooting first. Haha 100%. Maybe even, had a shootout, is an even better image lol. Karl Malone impregnated a 13-year-old girl while he attended Louisiana Tech University. She was 12, had the baby at 13. She was 12, had the baby at 13. Wince, raped. He still denies the child is his, looks just like him. Nah, he acknowledged the kid, after he became a pro football player. Eddie Furlong, the kid from Terminator 2, was groomed by his tutor and they dated when he was 13 and she was 26. She never faced any repercussions and even accused him of domestic violence. Yeah, lady, children tend to lash out against their abuser. Interesting side note in this. His teacher worked at LAUSD, LA Unified School District, and was responsible for removing soda vending machines from schools, for health reasons. Because she sure knows what's healthy for kids. I know soda is bad for you, but so is rape. It amazes me how many women fans Chris Brown has, knowing how he abuses women. Yes, H is talented, good-looking, charismatic when he speaks to the public and makes good music, but H is an abuser. They don't change. Brown was driving a vehicle with Robin F. as the front passenger on an unknown street in Los Angeles. Robin F. picked up Brown's cellular phone and observed a 3-page text message from a woman who Brown had a previous sexual relationship with. A verbal argument ensued and Brown pulled the vehicle over on an unknown street, reached over Robin F. with his right hand, opened the car door and attempted to force her out. Brown was unable to force Robin F. out of the vehicle because she was wearing a seat belt. When he could not force her to exit, he took his right hand and shoved her head against the passenger window of the vehicle, causing an approximate 1-inch raised circular contusion. Robin F. turned to face Brown and he punched her in the left eye with his right hand. He then drove away in the vehicle and continued to punch her in the face with his right hand while steering the vehicle with his left hand. The assault caused Robin F.'s mouth to fill with blood and blood to splatter all over her clothing and the interior of the vehicle. Brown looked at Robin F. and stated, "I'm going to beat the shush out of you when we get home. You wait and see," the detective said. Robin F. then used her cell phone to call her personal assistant Jennifer Rosales, who did not answer. Robin F. pretended to talk to her and stated, "I'm on my way home. Make sure the police are there when I get there." After Robin F. faked the call, Brown looked at her and stated, "You just did the stupidest thing ever. Now I'm really going to kill you." Brown resumed punching Robin F. and she interlocked her fingers behind her head and brought her elbows forward to protect her face. She then bent over at the waist, placing her elbows and face near her lap in an attempt to protect her face and head from the barrage of punches being levied upon her by Brown. Brown continued to punch Robin F. on her left arm and hand, causing her to suffer a contusion on her left triceps, that was approximately 2 inches in diameter, and numerous contusions on her left hand. Robin F. then attempted to send a text message to her other personal assistant, Melissa Ford. Brown snatched the cellular telephone out of her hand and threw it out of the window onto an unknown street. Brown continued driving and Robin F. observed his cellular telephone sitting in his lap. She picked up the cellular telephone with her left hand and before she could make a call he placed her in a headlock with his right hand and continued to drive the vehicle with his left hand. Brown pulled Robin F. close to him and bit her on her left ear. She was able to feel the vehicle swerving from right to left as Brown sped away. He stopped the vehicle in front of 333 North June Street and Robin F. turned off the car, removed the key from the ignition and sat on it. Brown did not know what she did with the key and began punching her in the face and arms. He then placed her in a headlock, positioning the front of her throat between his bicep and forearm. Brown began applying pressure to Robin F.'s left and right carotid arteries, causing her to be unable to breathe and she began to lose consciousness. She reached up with her left hand and began attempting to gouge his eyes in an attempt to free herself. Brown bit her left ring and middle fingers and then released her. While Brown continued to punch her, she turned around and placed her back against the passenger door. She brought her knees to her chest, placed her feet against Brown's body and began pushing him away. Brown continued to punch her on the legs and feet, causing several contusions. Robin F. began screaming for help and Brown exited the vehicle and walked away. A resident in the neighborhood heard Robin F.'s plea for help and called 911, causing a police response. An investigation was conducted and Robin F. was issued a domestic violence emergency protective order. Holy shit, what a maniac. He should be rotting in jail. Abusing women aside, not dismissed in the slightest. I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, and the amount of stories of him being a douchebag in this area are astounding, just being a dick with his expensive cars and stealing things from gas stations. I cannot believe he still has a career. Even locals hate his guts.